Hello and welcome back to Worm Watts, where we harness the God-given power of compost worms to transform organic waste into amazing living fertilizer. Now today we're back in the E-bin. This is our E-bin. We have had a little bit of trouble getting it named appropriately, so we've settled on the E-bin for the time being. And the last time we were in here, we actually put quail eggs in here, and actually it was after that we had actually just been checking to see how the worms were doing, and we added a lot of chaff because the last time we were in here after putting the eggs in, we did notice that there was a huge influx of flies. And as you'll see here, you can kind of see some of them scurrying about. There are flies all over the top here, just everywhere really. And on the other side of the lid there are flies as well. So yes, just as we expected, this has produced a heavy load of flies. It hasn't been pleasant, and I'm even taking a bit of a sniff just to get an idea of the smell. Yeah, there is more of a smell to this bin. So yeah, that's it's not been the case previously. So I'm gonna go ahead and dig down and see what we're looking at down here. See how the worms have done with this. But yeah, it's not rotten smelling, but it also is not the most pleasant. All right, so let's dig beyond the chaff that we used to kind of buffer things, and let's dig a little bit deeper down. And as we dig a little deeper, I'm seeing fly larvae. Let me see if I can focus enough for you to be able to see them. I've got what looks right there to be some fly larvae. Oh wow, look at all the worms. So the worms are doing great too. That is good to see. Now, one of the things that we're looking for as we look in here is also to see if we see any signs of protein poisoning. That's really the biggest concern that I have having animal products in the bin. And we did take precautions to try to prevent protein poisoning from taking place, and I don't really see a lot of that, but the worms are really nice, small. It looks like they might have even been pretty young. And as we dig a little further down, we got more worms. So the worms seem to be doing fine. It looks like they are coexisting with some kind of, maybe that's a potworm actually. A little white speck down there. It's kind of moving around a whole bunch. Because it doesn't move like a regular maggot. So that might be a potworm, and that is also par with the course when it comes to adding in animal products. So yeah, let's dig it to a different spot just to see how consistent these findings are. So hard to get through this chaff. Okay, so we're peeling back a layer here, and I'm seeing more worms as we peel that layer back. So yeah, the worms seem to be doing okay. I'm gonna put my hand in there because I would like to get a feel for the moisture level. I just have a bit of a concern about, you know, it being too dry in here. And definitely on this top layer, it's not super moist. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray down the bin. We don't want it to be too dry, and it does seem like the worms are kind of hunkering down. But the worms seem to be doing well. And for what that's worth, I'm going to go ahead and add one more batch of animal products into this bin. Hopefully it won't be too much, but I'm going to add in a nice little surprise. So the family has been a little bit under the weather, and so we like to keep our bones from, chicken or beef if we have it, and use it to make bone broth. And the benefit of that is that when you're done using the bones for bone broth, they're nice and very brittle, which means that they've already been broken down somewhat. They're not quite as tough. So let me set you up here so that you can kind of see, and I'll show you how brittle the bones are, and we'll go ahead and add them into the bin. Hopefully this won't be too much of an overload for this bin that's already taken on some animal products. But it's always interesting to be able to see what worms can do. And I think that they'll be able to take care of this as well. All right, so here is the little collection of bones, and I'll pull some out for you. These were well drenched in ginger and also in pepper flakes, cayenne pepper, pepper flakes would be the best way to put it, and then red pepper flakes and turmeric. So you can kind of see that they've taken on a little bit of a yellowish hue to them. Shouldn't be a problem. And some of them, as you can tell, have already been broken, but I wanted to show you how easily they break. So I'm just gonna push this one bone, and boom, the head comes right off. Head of that bone comes right off. I'll do it again, and it snaps in half. So these bones are nice and soft, and they still have some structure to them. They're not just mush, but you can crush them with your hands. So they're nice and ready for this. I'm gonna go ahead and take this entire batch. This is probably more bones than I would normally put in, but I've got some intact bones. I'd like to put some of those in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. Got 3 or so intact bones. 2 more intact bones. And there's a little bit of meat, as you can see on that. Sorry, as you can see right there on the bone on the left. So we'll just stick that in there. Some more intact bones. We'll go ahead and put those in there. Some more. In they go. One of them just snapped just from dropping it in there, so you can tell that they're nice and soft. Here's another bone. Toss that in there. And then on this end, I'll put the ones that are broken up. You can see how those are doing right there. So all right, so that is the bones there. And I would like to water this and put another layer of chaff over the top of this. This is going to be I imagine this will be a long-term breakdown kind of deal. And I want the chaff to provide a little bit of a barrier between these bones and the outside world and the flies. So we're gonna do that. And then additionally, we're also going to take the same precaution we did last time, which is that we are going to put in, we're gonna cover this with a healthy dose of crushed eggshell. So I've got that here in this jar, and I'm just gonna douse this, honestly, in crushed eggshell. All right, so it's nice and covered in crushed eggshell, and I do that just as a precaution. Just as a precaution. All right, so I've got the crushed eggshell in there, and now it's time for some more chaff. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a nice healthy dose of that. Right next to us, we've got this nice big collection of chaff. I've got a dustpan here that I use to scoop it out. All right, and there we go. We'll just drop that over the top. And I think that will about do it. I don't want it to be too deep, but chaff doesn't take much moisture to really help condense it. So even if it's filled with chaff to the top of the bin, it's not going to necessarily produce a ton of biomass that sticks around. This will really pack down when the moisture comes in. So let's go ahead and spray that down. Hopefully this will bring the worms out from so far down. They seemed to be, I was actually surprised at how dried out they seemed. Like how far below the surface. There didn't seem to be a lot of them out and about. So we want to change that up by dosing this with a lot of water, so they feel comfortable to come up here and move around. So of course we're not going to saturate the bin too much, oversaturate it, but we are going to make sure that there's enough moisture in there for them to be able to breathe and be able to traverse the bin easily. So I'm just going to keep on spraying and keep on chatting with you about what we're doing in this bin. Again, we've got the flies there. I'm hoping that after a bit they'll disappear from here too. Move on to greener pastures. Need to look into some kind of auto mister. Alright, so got a nice good layer of moisture here. You can see it beating up on the top. That's a nice sign that we're really collecting some moisture in there. Because of the amount of chaff though, I want to make sure that it's really thoroughly wet so that it can penetrate and get down to those lower areas. And the moisture is important, not just for the worms to breathe, but also to help with the microbes. The microbes are going to thrive most in conditions that are somewhat moist, where there's sufficient moisture. Otherwise, they will not be able to do their best, and that in turn means that the worms will not have an ideal environment, because the worms seem to follow the microbes, right? That's what they're after here. So we want to make sure that the bin is a welcoming environment for microbes. So there we go. We've moistened down this bin in what I think is a sufficient manner. I'm going to go ahead and stop with the spraying now, and we'll call that a day. Ooh, it's sticking to your fingers already. So yeah, hopefully that moisture will distribute itself throughout the bin, kind of permeate to those lower layers, and help the worms to be able to work their way through some of this material. But I'm really excited to see what they do with the bones. I have never tried bones in the compost bin, so that's a new thing for me, and I hope it's exciting for you to watch as well. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.